Okay, so I think I need to stress something here. We are not as ready for aliens as you might believe, because there's still a lot of people right now, and this really bugs me, that still think it makes sense to not only accuse other human beings of not being human, but then to use that as grounds to justify potentially killing them or getting rid of them. And that's just like, that is occupying a core animal fear part of your brain when you do that. The thing is, bad people don't need to have interesting reasons to do harm. The truth is, they don't need to be a secret alien or clone or anything. Honestly, the reasons are quite boring sometimes. And your soul does not give a shit what body it is occupying. Okay? What I mean by that is, in the grand tapestry of eternity, you're probably going to take on a lot of different forms. Okay? And whatever you might have been in the past, animal even, it doesn't matter. Like, that's not what you are now. You're a person. Like, you are as much an earthling as an earthling can be, okay? And there's this idea that we have to project our own inability and immaturity to get past basic things like skin color on this earth right now. I'm sorry, like, we're still not beyond that point of like dehumanizing people because we get benefits out of it, like free labor. Okay? Like, if we can't relate to things in a way that stops occupying this like more caveman part of our brain, then no, you're not ready for open contact. And I just want to be clear about that. Because again, people do not need interesting reasons to commit harm. And it's kind of silly to also say, oh, this person is definitely a reptile or something. And I want it to be known there is such this, I think the best way I can put it is a misunderstanding of energetics here. The thing is, you don't have to be anything specific to potentially come off that way energetically. And what I mean by that is your spirit will look like the aspects of it that you feed personally. Okay? If you feed a certain part of it, the reptilian part of your brain, for example, and a lot of people in classified parts of government kind of do occupy that energy. It doesn't mean they're actually reptilian. It just means it was a petri dish that wanted to select particular people that would help make certain goals achievable. And for a long time, it was to find people, including CEOs, by the way, who have a ruthlessness about them in which they devalue life and only care about an end game result. But this in itself is still not very evolved. So I think it's important to understand that also our relationship to the energy looks like a reptile in our brains. Okay, that doesn't mean they actually look like that. It doesn't. That's just our reference point. That's the closest thing we have on Earth, like an actual lizard, that gives us any reference for what that energy feels like. Okay, so when you have people who are specifically rewarded for being sociopaths, because that's what they're rewarded for sociopathy, and it's the same with people like Mark Zuckerberg. So it doesn't mean that they're not human themselves. Okay, like, and if you can't get past that idea, then you're not ready for aliens. And honestly, everyone's worst fear about aliens is a huge projection anyway, because that's our relationship to intelligent life. What do? We try to enslave it, make it do tricks for us, force them to breed. Like, I'm sorry, that's just what we do. That's what humans do. That's what humans do. We found out that whales were intelligent. What was the first thing we tried to do? We tried to weaponize them in the military. And then when that didn't work, we abducted them from their families and put them in fucking water circuses to perform for us. Like, and what we do to other people on the basis of they're less than animals. That's the only thing that racism is functionally achieving. It is allowing you to dehumanize another people group so that you can reap the benefits that doesn't tell you have to feel empathy for them. Because if you felt empathy for them, you would understand really quickly why that is a horrible thing to allow in our world. And it would just be destroyed overnight. There would not be slavery. There would not be like war. You have to understand that they are still people. And oh my God, can we stop calling people NPCs as well? Jesus Christ. Do not call people NPCs. That is a dangerous precedent to set. There is a reason the military invested heavily, not just the military, the government, in creating games like Call of Duty. Yes, that's the real reason it was banned in other countries, because it was basically, it's called mean world syndrome. If you can desensitize your populace to violence and successfully dehumanize people into a video game context, there's less resistance to the idea of enlisting in a voluntary military to go overseas and kill somebody, because in your head they're just a video game NPC. So just because people are not awake does not mean you can call them NPCs or that you can relate to them that way. That's You don't have any business in whatever they're doing. Okay, it is not up to you to go call people sheep, which is a dangerous freaking precedent. Again, you're dehumanizing them, you're not actually better than the things you are perceiving are after you or whatever. And also, it's robbing you of your own agency when you say shit like that. Like, oh, these so and so's are harvesting us. Let me tell you something. People harvest your energy too, and they don't always understand or know that that's what they're doing, but they are doing it. Okay, I will tell you something that I've never forgiven journalism for. Because the only environment in which journalism was feasible to pursue, it's changing now, and I love that. Okay, it's going back to kind of what it was initially, but for a while there, it was about farming outrage, okay? So this whole hiccup, remember when there was this whole thing about people who won't get the COVID vaccine or being denied organ transplants, and it was like promoted as being this hyperpolarizing thing. And I know for a fact if they had actually sat and talked to these doctors, they would have told them exactly why that's the case. It was not a matter of discrimination. It is because when you have an organ transplant, you basically have to take meds for the rest of your life, immune suppressant medication, because your body spends the rest of its life rejecting this foreign object because it's not technically an organ made by your body. Okay, what that means is basically you don't have an immune system, and that anything could potentially kill you, like a cold. Okay, so in the case of COVID at the time, which was very dangerous, it was basically a guaranteed death to get an organ transplant while being on these immunosuppressants, and then get COVID anyway, just to die anyway. So, and yet there was not a single outlet that mentioned that because they wanted to farm outrage. That's farming your energy. You can call it anything else you want. Anyway, the rest of that footage got corrupted because I'm impatient. So, whatever. I got the main point across. My point is stop giving people interesting reasons to be shitty. They don't need interesting reasons. Trump doesn't have to be the Antichrist or anything. He just has to be a really shit person who doesn't want to be accountable for his own pain and wants to project that on everyone else. And those people are everywhere, not just in the White House. So that's it. That's what I want to say. People don't need interesting reasons to be shitty, and until you can get past this energy where you think it makes sense to dehumanize other people and then have that be a means of justification for why you get to hurt them, then no, you are not ready for aliens. Okay? You know what the assignment is. If you care about that, that's where you should look first.